when you compare it to the time that you're not spending about thinking about food, worrying about food, being annoyed by not being able to eat, or being annoyed in general, this hungry, moody, hangry feeling that you get while dieting, it's not there. The half-life of Tirzepatide is 5 days, so for 1 weekly administrations, it might be a little bit too short. So if you do a dose of 5 milligram on Sunday, for example, I think you're going to get, moderate to reduced appetite suppression by the end of the week. So that might force you to eat a little bit more or cheat on your diet. So from my experience, I feel that, on Derek's recommendation, every day, every other day, 3 times per week administrations of 1 milligram, more than enough. The metabolism of Tirzepatide goes through the similar pathways as the other GLP-1s and GIP medications, the other incretins. It's metabolized through the dipeptidyl peptidase type 4 enzymes, which are present on the cell membrane. Now, the DPPT enzymes, they metabolize growth factors. For example, insulin is a growth factor, IGF-1. Growth hormone, releasing hormone, is a growth factor, but growth hormone itself is not considered to be a growth factor. So GHRH is metabolized by the dipeptidyl peptidase type 4 enzymes. It's a mouthful. EPO, right? Erythropoietin, epidermal growth factor. There's a whole list. I'll put it on the screen so you guys know which growth factors are metabolized by dipeptidyl peptidase type 4 enzymes. Including the incretins, right? So that's tirzepatide, liraglutide, dulaglutide, and semaglutide. You can inhibit these enzymes with gliptin medications, including sitagliptin, sexagliptin, or linagliptin. There's a whole list of these medications available. They're quite expensive, and they're also prescribed in cases of type 2 diabetes. There's no real other practical application for gliptin medications unless you have access to IGF-1. If you want to prevent the breakdown of IGF-1, LR3, DES, or Increlex, for example, then I would recommend gliptin medications to prevent the breakdown and make your IGF-1 a little bit more potent. And berberine is also said to be a potent or moderate dipeptidyl peptidase type 4 inhibitor. So I've been supplementing with berberine 500 milligrams in the morning for this entire duration. I basically supplement with berberine all the time, even though I'm on a ketogenic diet. I like berberine for its lipid management effects in combination with citrus bergamot. I feel that they work very synergistically regarding lipid management, where you're drug-free or enhanced. So I'm always on that there berberine, 500 milligrams in the morning, sometimes 2 servings, 500 milligrams in the morning and 500 milligrams in the evening. But after I was doing a lot of research on mitochondrial functioning, I saw that, consistent and higher dosages of berberine might have a deleterious effect on your mitochondrial function. So I reduced that to 500 milligrams in the morning. And how much that contributes to the inhibition of tirzepatide metabolism through these dipeptidyl peptidase 4 type 4 enzymes found on the cell membrane. I'm not entirely sure. But again, berberine helps with insulin sensitivity, and the better your insulin sensitivity is, the better your glucose levels are going to be, the lower your insulin levels are going to be. And of course, insulin is potentially a co-factor in the storage of adipose tissue when GIP receptors are activated as well. So long story short, combine both for a increased effect. Now, the dosages which are recommended for type 2 diabetes management range from 2.5 to 15 milligrams once weekly. And the commonly reported side effects are similar to the other GLP-1 receptor agonists: nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, upset stomach, and potentially acid reflux. And tirzepatide might also be correlated with thyroid cancer. Now, again, when you read those studies, you see that the thyroid cancer, which was formed with continuous use on GLP-1 receptor agonists, were people suffering from type 2 diabetes or other underlying medical conditions. Personally, I'm not very worried. I've done multiple ultrasounds on my thyroid over the last couple of years, and I don't really see any changes. Again, if you're worried about thyroid cancer, feel free to do an ultrasound on your thyroid gland before, during, and after the treatment with GLP-1 receptor agonist or combination medications of GLP-1 and GIP. How it compares, if you're unfamiliar with tirzepatide, I would say that it's very similar to using semaglutide while fasting. when you fast for a multitude of different days, you get that feeling of emptiness in your stomach, and it feels flat. So it's empty, but you're not hungry, and your stomach is flat. And this feeling I have throughout the entire day. So that's also because I'm, of course, eating a lot less. Maybe it's because the rate at which my partially digested food from the stomach is entering the intestinal tract, so it's going through it slower. I feel that all of my food is digesting normally, so I don't feel that it's partially digesting. Bathroom experience are pretty much the same. No diarrhea, no vomiting, no nausea in my case. But that will be the closest analogy I can make on how to describe Tirzepatide. I was researching Tirzepatide on the cases of fertility, and it might actually be beneficial. In cases of female polycystic ovarian syndrome, Tirzepatide can actually improve fertility parameters. That's in females. And when you look at the rodent studies, Tirzepatide was shown to have no negative effects in either female or male rodents. So there might be some promise to run this in cases of a fertility protocol after coming off cycle. I will continue with Tirzepatide for another month or so. So that's till the end of March. Because again, I don't see any proven negative effect on fertility levels, whether that's in men or women, and it might actually be beneficial. So I feel that Tirzepatide is reasonably safe to use, even when you're working on fertility parameters. Still, the evidence is quite limited and not very conclusive, I would say, so I'm still going to take it out. I'm just going to use the Tirzepatide for the next couple of weeks to get into a pretty good shape, so I prevent myself from getting a dad bod during this entire fertility protocol that I'm going to undergo for the majority of this year. I would say that it's very promising, albeit that it's very expensive. It's going to be a couple $100 for 5 milligram servings from what I see online. So keep that in mind. The amount of food that you're not going to eat, if you compare that to the price that you're going to spend on Tirzepatide, I would say that it's non-comparable. But when you compare it to the time that you're not spending about thinking about food, worrying about food, being annoyed by not being able to eat, or being annoyed in general, this hungry, moody, hangry feeling that you get while dieting, it's not there. So in that sense, I'm more productive because I'm not, focused on not being able to eat. I'll leave it here. All things considering, Tirzepatide wins hands down. Best appetite suppressant I've tried, ever, basically. Minimal side effects and all the results you would get. The only real side effect of Tirzepatide is that it's mad expensive. Hopefully with time there'll be some generic medications out there so Eli Lilly can compete and have to forcefully reduce the price so you guys can afford it a little bit better. I think Tirzepatide is going to be the norm going forward, really. That's how promising it is, especially in combination with glucagon. But please help me out in that experiment and report to me by email if you're able to do that experiment and see how your fat loss was combining these two medications together. And well, regarding the tesofensine, I guess I'm just going to use this occasionally when I need a little bit more of a stimulatory effect, similar to Adderall extended release at a dose of, let's say, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams upon waking. That's the only real practical application I see for tesofensine, but your mileage might be different, because I have met people who got tremendous and great appetite suppression out of tesofensine. I'm just not that guy. And again, it could be the fluvoxamine messing with my 5-HT receptors for multiple months after discontinuation. Take it with a grain of salt, I would say. The tesofensine will be in my cabinet for occasional use, and the Tirzepatide will be in my fridge for 3 times per week use until I run out at the end of March. I'll leave it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can find everything that I'm associated with down below in the YouTube description section. Vigorous crew, a front double bicep for you guys. You guys know what to do. You already liked, you already commented, but feel free to comment again. The more comments you leave, the better the algorithm gets stroked. And the harder you stroke the algorithm, the further we're going to get with this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.